Today's episode is brought to you by the Daily Gardener Friday newsletter. You can sign up for the newsletter over at thedailygardener.org. Hi there and welcome to The Daily Gardener, a podcast featuring garden history and literature. I'm Jennifer Ebling, and today is February 17th. Today in garden history, we celebrate the birth of Reginald Ferrer, the legendary English rock and alpine gardener, plant explorer, nurseryman, writer, and painter. He was born on this day in 1880. The son of a wealthy family in the Yorkshire Dales, Reginald repeatedly referenced Yorkshire in his writing. It was his touchstone. Reginald was born with many physical challenges. He had a cleft palate, speech difficulties, and what Reg himself called a pygmy body. As a kid, he had many surgeries to correct his mouth, which meant he was homeschooled. But the silver lining of his solitary childhood was his connection to nature. Reginald found happiness among the flora and fauna, and he particularly loved the rocks, ravines, and hills around his home. At 14, Reginald created his first rock garden, which eventually became a nursery called Craven that specialized in Asian mountain plants. And every time Reginald went on expeditions, he sent the new alpine plants and seeds that he discovered back home to Craven. After college, Reginald became a devout Buddhist, and he liked to say that he found, quote, joy in high places. And so every year he visited the European Alps. And although he saw some of the most incredible mountain vistas in the world, they held no sway with him. For Reginald, it was always about the plants. He wrote, "It may come as a shock and a heresy to my fellow ramblers when I make the confession that, to me, the mountains exist simply as homes and backgrounds to their population of infinitesimal plants." Reginald's book, The Garden of Asia, launched his writing career and showed garden writers a new way to write about garden plants. And if you're building a garden library, this is definitely a book that you should have on the shelf. And the botanist Clarence Eliot observed this about Reginald's book. As a writer of garden books, Reginald stood alone. He wrote from a peculiar angle, giving queer human attributes to his plants, which somehow exactly described them. Reginald's passion for rock gardens was perfectly timed. The British gardening public latched on to rock gardening with a frenzy, and Reginald's book, My Rock Garden, which debuted in 1907, became an instant success and earned him the moniker Prince of Alpine Gardeners. In 1919, at the age of 40, Reginald took a trip to Myanmar. He would never see his beloved Yorkshire again. He met his end alone on a remote Burmese mountain. Most reports say he died of diphtheria, but the explorer and botanist Joseph Rock said he heard Reginald drank himself to death on the night of October 17th, 1920. And I thought of Reginald up on that mountain alone when I researched the etymology of the name of his nursery, Craven, which means defeated, crushed, or overwhelmed. Today, Reginald is remembered in the names of many plants, like the beautiful blue Gentiana ferrari. And the Alpine Garden Society's most highly prized show medal is the Ferrer Medal, which honors the best plant in show. It was Reginald Ferrer who said, "I think the true gardener is a lover of his flowers, not a critic of them. I think the true gardener is the reverent servant of nature, not her truculent, wife-beating master. I think the true gardener, the older he grows, should more and more develop a humble, grateful, and uncertain spirit. And he also said, all the wars of the world, all the Caesars, have not the staying power of a lily in a cottage garden. And it was on this day in 1918 that Dora Hughes wrote an article for the New York Tribune called "The Carrot Comes Into Its Own." Dora wrote, "Time was when the carrot held high estate, for in the days of King Charles I, the ladies of the royal court used its feathery plumes in place of feathers for their adornment. Physicians prized the roots for their diuretic properties, from which came the general impression that eating carrots beautified the complexion and hair." Possibly the reason why carrots are not more often served is that, as a rule, they are prepared always in the same way. But one may serve carrots each day of the week and never have them twice in the same form. It is a pity that so few housekeepers seem to realize this. And so then Dora offers up a diverse list of options for serving carrots in the year 1918. She talks about Crissy soup. Crissy soup takes its name from the town in France where it was first made, and it is obviously a carrot soup. Then there's mashed carrots and carrot cakes. She writes, "Carrots are excellent, simply mashed and dressed with butter." She talks about carrot croquettes. Carrot croquettes are made of mashed carrot and cracker crumbs, and then seasoned and mixed with egg. Then Dora offers up fried and candied carrots. She writes, "Fried carrots are prepared by cutting cooked carrots in long slices, dipping in egg and breadcrumbs, and then browning in hot fat. Candied carrots, on the other hand, are made this way. You put butter in a baking dish, lay in slices of cold carrot, sprinkle sugar and cinnamon or mace, and add water or milk." Next, Dora suggests French carrots and peas. She writes, "Carrots and peas are a favorite French dish, and their method is to cut the carrot in dice not much larger than the peas, heated together in a saucepan with oil for the dressing." And then she goes on to talk about how you can use that diced carrot and pea combination and put it in a salad. And then her last suggestion is something that I thought sounded really good for spring, and that is carrot and celery on toast. Here's what she writes. "Carrot and celery make another good combination. Have an equal amount of each, the celery in thin slices and the carrot in small pieces. Boil the carrots till tender and drain. Scald the celery. Mix the two and put to cook in a pint of milk. Thicken with a teaspoonful of cornstarch dissolved in a little milk. Season with salt, pepper, and butter, and serve as soon as boiled." And then she suggests, for a supper dish, serve on toast. It's time to grow that garden library with today's book, Small Garden Style by Hendry Eaton. This book came out in 2020, and the subtitle is A Design Guide for Outdoor Rooms and Containers. Little gardens, petite gardens, mini gardens, whatever you call them, they are manageable, doable, and fun. Now, Isa's approach is to layer in big style to these little marvels so that you end up with a garden that is lush and lovely. Her designs have a dramatic flair, no doubt thanks to her background in graphic design. Now, there's a time in all our lives for small gardens. When I first lived up at the cabin during the pandemic, I was quite content with a small kitchen garden on the deck compared to my wraparound full-scale garden set up in the suburbs here in Maple Grove. Now, what Isa shows us how to do is to embrace the smaller size, but not sacrifice style. Isa's gardens are joyful, they're elegant, inviting, and exciting, and she has mastered creating outdoor living in small spaces for entertaining or relaxing. Now, even if you don't know where to start, never fear. Isa has in her book a really handy style quiz that's going to help you pinpoint your own personal garden style. Now that's very helpful. And then she also gets you thinking about your small space in new ways so that you can utilize all of the space, factoring in horizontal, vertical, and overhead spaces. And then next, Isa shows you some design tricks with pots and containers to create stunning planters. And she loves to tuck in succulents and grasses and all kinds of textures that add drama. There's that graphic design background coming through again, and that is what Isa is known for, that drama and lushness. Isa also shares what she's learned from garden pros that she's worked with, and then she reveals her favorite plants and decor for small spaces. Those are two of my favorite topics. I love reading about what other people love to use in terms of plant varieties in their gardens. Isa offers ideas for lawn alternatives, and then she guides you through how to add in all kinds of elements like a fire pit, an instant mini orchard, that's my personal favorite, a boulder bird bath, a perfumed wall, that's a very clever idea, and then a faux fountain with cascading plants, just to name a few. She's got many, many more projects in this book. The bottom line here is that you'll learn from Isa that small gardens do not have to be dull or unimaginative. Isa is all about helping you transform your space into a jewel of Pinterest-worthy garden style, a modern garden oasis. You can get a copy of Small Garden Style by Hendry Eaton and support the show using the Amazon link in today's show notes for around $4. I could not believe it when I saw that. So if you want a copy of Isa's book, act quickly because those used copies at that price are going to go quick, especially after today's show. All right, we'll wrap things up with today's Botanic Spark, which features Elizabeth Roberts MacDonald, the Canadian poet and short story writer who was born on this day in 1864. Elizabeth was a teacher at the School for the Blind in Halifax, Canada, and she's remembered for her 1906 collection of poems that are called Dream Verses and Others. Here's the last stanza from her poem called A Song of Seasons, in which she praises the virtues of every season and then ends with these words. Sing a song of loving, let the seasons go. Hearts can make their gardens under sun or snow. Fear no fading blossom, nor the dying day. Sing a song of loving that will last for aye. Well, that's it for today's show. Just remember that you have a standing invitation to join the free Facebook group for listeners of the show. The next time you're over at Facebook, just search for Daily Gardener Community, where you'd search for a friend and then request to join. And if you'd like more of The Daily Gardener, you can subscribe to the newsletter over at thedailygardener.org. And don't forget that you can also show your support for the show by using the Buy Me a Coffee link over at the website or in today's show notes. This is Jennifer Ebling. Thanks for listening to The Daily Gardener. And remember, for a happy, healthy life, garden every day.